A woman who was never late hid a terrifying secret. She was living 24 hours ahead of everyone else. But when she saw her own death coming at exactly 8:17 p.m., mysterious forces gave her one impossible task: stop time itself. Then the clocks froze across Seattle, and she vanished without a trace. Evelyn Carter had never been late a single day in her life. Not to work, not to birthdays, not even funerals. People called her obsessive. Some admired her discipline. Others joked she probably had a clock hidden inside her brain. But nobody knew the terrifying truth behind her perfect timing. Evelyn was living 24 hours ahead of everyone else. Every conversation, every accident, every death, she experienced them one full day before they happened. For years, she hid the curse carefully, pretending to be normal while secretly memorizing tomorrow. Until one Thursday night in Seattle, Washington, she saw her own death. At exactly 8:17 p.m. the following evening, Evelyn watched herself disappear in a frozen downtown street, while every clock around her stopped ticking. Security cameras failed. Witnesses vanished. And moments before she disappeared forever, Evelyn screamed one sentence that investigators would never fully understand. They said time must stand still, or I die with it. The next day, she vanished exactly as she predicted. No body was ever found, and what authorities discovered inside her apartment would turn the case into one of America's strangest unsolved mysteries. Seattle, Washington, October 14th, 2021. At exactly 7:45 every morning, Evelyn Carter entered the glass doors of Strathmore Financial downtown, carrying the same black leather bag and wearing the same calm expression. Her co-workers adjusted their watches whenever she arrived because Evelyn was never wrong about time. Not once in 11 years had she arrived late. "Honestly, she scares me," joked receptionist Laura Mills one rainy morning. "I think she's secretly a robot." Everyone laughed except Evelyn, because she had already heard the joke yesterday. Evelyn sat quietly at her office desk while the digital clock above the trading floor changed from 7:59 to 8 a.m. Her breathing slowed with relief. Another dangerous minute survived. Her phone vibrated. Unknown number. Her hands immediately trembled. She already knew what the message would say. "Stop trying to change things. Delete tomorrow." Evelyn quickly erased the message before anyone noticed, but panic spread through her chest. The messages had been getting worse over the years. At first, they only appeared occasionally after she prevented accidents or arguments she had already witnessed a day earlier. Now the messages appeared every single day, as if something was watching her and punishing her for remembering tomorrow. That evening, Evelyn returned home to her husband Daniel Carter in their quiet apartment overlooking Elliott Bay. Daniel kissed her forehead while preparing dinner, unaware that Evelyn already knew every word he was about to say. But tonight was different, because at exactly 11:43 p.m., Evelyn would see something she was never supposed to witness. Her own death. Rain hammered against the apartment windows as Seattle disappeared beneath thick gray fog. Evelyn stood frozen beside the kitchen counter, staring at the microwave clock. 11:42 p.m. Daniel was in the living room watching a late-night baseball replay while casually scrolling through his phone. Everything looked painfully ordinary, but Evelyn knew what was coming. For years, the visions always arrived the same way. The migraines first, then the ringing sound, then tomorrow. Her fingers tightened around the counter as sharp pain exploded behind her eyes. A high-pitched whine filled her ears until she could barely breathe. 11:43 p.m. The apartment suddenly went silent. Not quiet, silent. Even the rain outside had stopped. Evelyn slowly looked up. The microwave clock no longer moved. 11:43 p.m. Frozen. Her stomach dropped. No, she whispered. Then tomorrow appeared. She stood in the middle of downtown Seattle, surrounded by abandoned cars beneath flickering traffic lights. The streets were completely still. People stood motionless like statues. A cyclist hung frozen in mid-motion. Steam from a sewer vent remained suspended in the air. Tom had stopped. Evelyn stumbled backward in horror as she noticed herself standing at the intersection of Pine Street and 6th Avenue. A second Evelyn, terrified, crying, begging someone she couldn't see. "Please." I tried. I did everything you asked. Then every clock around the street changed simultaneously. 8:16 p.m. 8:16 p.m. 8:16 p.m. The air began vibrating violently. A deep voice echoed from nowhere and everywhere at once. Time must stand still. Evelyn watched her future self scream in agony as darkness swallowed the entire intersection. Then, 8:17 p.m., her future self vanished. Completely. No blood. No body. Nothing. Evelyn gasped awake on the kitchen floor, drenched in sweat while the microwave clock blinked normally again. 11:44 p.m. Daniel rushed into the kitchen. "Evelyn, what happened?" But she couldn't answer, because for the first time in her life, tomorrow terrified her. Evelyn did not sleep. By 4:30 a.m., she sat alone at the kitchen table wrapped in a blanket while dozens of handwritten notebooks covered the surface around her. Daniel had finally fallen asleep on the couch after hours of asking questions she refused to answer. Outside, Seattle remained dark and soaked in cold rain. Inside, Evelyn searched desperately through years of notes. Dates, predictions, accidents, deaths. Every tomorrow she had ever witnessed was documented carefully in black ink. And buried deep within the oldest notebook, she finally found the words she feared most. The first rule: time cannot be stopped without sacrifice. Her breathing became uneven. The page was dated May 2nd, 2003. She was only 13 years old when the curse first appeared. Evelyn remembered that day perfectly. Her younger brother, Liam, had drowned during a school trip near Cannon Beach, Oregon. 24 hours before it happened, she saw the entire tragedy in horrifying detail. She begged teachers to cancel the trip. Nobody listened. Desperate to save him, young Evelyn locked every clock inside their home, smashed a wristwatch, and hid inside a closet believing that if time could not move, Liam would survive. At exactly 3:14 p.m., every clock in the house stopped. For 11 seconds. And somewhere across Oregon, 42-year-old bus driver Nathan Cole died instantly from sudden brain hemorrhage. Liam survived. Evelyn never forgot what happened afterward. The whispering voices, the headaches, the messages, the impossible understanding that something had traded one life for another. A sacrifice. And over the years, the force behind the curse became stronger whenever she interfered with fate. Now it wanted repayment. Evelyn's hands trembled violently as she turned the page and discovered words written in shaky handwriting she did not remember writing herself. Final correction approaching. Subject: Evelyn Carter. Time debt overdue. Then her apartment lights suddenly shut off. Every clock inside the room stopped ticking. And from somewhere inside the darkness, someone whispered her name. Evelyn. The whisper echoed again through the dark apartment. Daniel jolted awake on the couch. Power outage? But Evelyn already knew this was not normal. Every clock had stopped at exactly 4:44 a.m. Microwave, wall clock, her phone, even Daniel's wristwatch. Frozen. The apartment temperature dropped suddenly, filling the hallway with icy air. Evelyn slowly stood from the kitchen table while the whispering grew louder, almost overlapping itself like dozens of voices speaking together. Evelyn Carter. Daniel grabbed his phone flashlight. Stay behind me. But Evelyn's fear exploded when she saw the hallway. Someone was standing there. A tall figure dressed entirely in black stood motionless near the apartment entrance. Its face remained hidden in darkness despite the flashlight shining directly toward it. Daniel froze. Who the hell are you? The figure did not move. Then Evelyn noticed something impossible. The man had no shadow, and the second hand on Daniel's wristwatch had begun spinning backward. Tick, tick, tick. No, Evelyn whispered. The figure finally spoke. You were warned not to alter the sequence. Its voice sounded distorted, like multiple people speaking simultaneously through broken speakers. Daniel stepped backward in confusion. Evelyn, what is this? She could barely breathe now, because she recognized the voice. It was the same voice from the vision. Time must stand still. The figure slowly raised one pale hand toward Evelyn. Your correction occurs at 8:17 p.m. Daniel suddenly lunged forward. Get out of our apartment. The instant he touched the figure, every light exploded. The apartment shook violently. Daniel was thrown across the room as clocks throughout the apartment began ticking uncontrollably fast. Evelyn screamed and rushed toward him. Blood poured from Daniel's nose while his eyes widened in terror. Then the mysterious figure vanished completely. Silence returned instantly. Daniel stared at Evelyn in horror. What are you hiding from me? But Evelyn could no longer keep the truth buried, because for the first time, someone else had seen the impossible. By sunrise, Daniel refused to leave Evelyn alone. The bruise on his shoulder had darkened badly where the shadow figure threw him across the apartment. But what terrified him more was Evelyn herself. She looked exhausted, unstable, and completely defeated. Finally, around 8 a.m., she told him everything. The visions, the messages, the curse, living 24 hours ahead of reality. Daniel listened in silence from their kitchen table, while Seattle traffic slowly awakened outside. When she finished, he laughed once. Not because it was funny, because his mind could not process anything else. You expect me to believe time is hunting you, he whispered. Evelyn immediately looked toward the window. A city bus suddenly slammed into a silver sedan at the intersection below their apartment, exactly as she had already seen yesterday. Daniel stood frozen. Oh my God! Evelyn quietly closed her eyes. There's more. She led him into the bedroom closet and removed a locked storage box hidden beneath old blankets. Inside were dozens of USB drives, journals, newspaper clippings, and printed photographs dating back almost 20 years. Every disaster she had predicted, every person she tried saving, every consequence afterward. But one folder terrified Daniel most. Tomorrow's files. Inside were printed photographs of events that had not happened yet. A grocery store fire in Portland. A bridge collapse near Sacramento. A missing child case in Reno. All dated tomorrow. Daniel's face turned pale as he flipped through them. Then he stopped suddenly. At the bottom of the folder was a photograph taken at 8:17 p.m. that evening. Downtown Seattle, Pine Street. Police vehicles surrounding an empty intersection. And written across the back in Evelyn's handwriting were 4 chilling words. No body was found. Then Daniel noticed something else hidden inside the folder. A recent newspaper clipping. FBI consultant investigates unexplained disappearances. Below the article was a photograph of Detective Marcus Hale, and someone had circled his face repeatedly in red ink. Detective Marcus Hale hated unexplained cases. After 15 years with the FBI's Behavioral Analysis Unit, he trusted evidence, patterns, and logic. Ghost stories belonged to internet forums, not federal investigations, which was exactly why Evelyn Carter's file bothered him. At 11:20 a.m., Marcus arrived at the Seattle Police Department carrying 3 unsolved disappearance folders connected by one impossible detail. Every victim vanished at precisely recorded times. No bodies, no struggle, no forensic evidence, just absence. Captain Rebecca Torres met him near the evidence room. You really think these cases connect? Marcus opened the first file. Denver, Colorado, 2017. A train conductor disappeared during a system-wide clock malfunction. Second file. Phoenix, Arizona, 2019. A radio host vanished live on air after every digital device in the studio froze at 2:11 a.m. Third file. San Diego, California, 2020. A woman disappeared inside an elevator while surveillance footage skipped exactly 11 seconds. Marcus placed the files side by side. All witnesses reported the same thing, he said quietly. Stop clocks. Rebecca folded her arms uneasily. You think someone's staging this? I think someone wants us confused. But Marcus was lying, because last night his office voicemail received something disturbing. A woman whispering repeatedly through static. 8:17 p.m., Pine Street, don't let time stop. Then screaming. The recording ended with every sound abruptly cutting off. No caller ID, no trace. And Marcus recognized the voice immediately after reviewing Evelyn Carter's driver's license photo that morning. Now, standing inside the evidence room, Marcus stared again at her file. No criminal history, stable marriage, financial analyst, obsessive punctuality. Then he noticed a sticky note attached to the front folder written by a local officer. Subject claims she experiences tomorrow before it happens. Marcus almost laughed. Almost. Then every fluorescent light inside the evidence room flickered violently. All nearby computers shut off simultaneously, and every clock on the wall froze. 11:43 a.m. Marcus slowly looked up, because somewhere nearby, someone was whispering his name. At exactly 2:06 p.m., Marcus Hale arrived at Evelyn Carter's apartment overlooking Elliott Bay. Rain poured heavily across Seattle as police sirens echoed faintly through downtown traffic. Daniel opened the apartment door cautiously, his face pale from exhaustion. "You're the FBI agent?" he asked. Marcus nodded. "I need to speak with your wife." Evelyn appeared slowly from the hallway. The moment Marcus saw her, a strange pressure built inside his chest. She looked exactly like the terrified woman from the voicemail recording. But what unsettled him most was Evelyn's expression. She looked like she already knew him. "Detective Marcus Hale," she said quietly. "You almost died in Chicago 3 years ago." Marcus froze instantly. Nobody outside the FBI knew about Chicago. During a hostage standoff in 2018, Marcus survived after a bullet narrowly missed his spine by less than an inch. "How do you know that?" he asked sharply. Evelyn ignored the question and glanced nervously toward the apartment clock. 2:07 p.m. "We don't have much time." Marcus sat across from her, while Daniel remained near the kitchen, visibly shaken. Then Evelyn explained everything. The visions, the voices, the disappearances, the sacrifices required whenever time was interrupted. Marcus wanted to reject all of it, but then Evelyn suddenly whispered, "In exactly 30 seconds, your phone will ring. Your captain will tell you a man jumped from the Aurora Bridge." Marcus frowned. 28 seconds later, his phone rang. Captain Torres sounded breathless. "Marcus, we just got a suicide report near Aurora Bridge." Silence filled the apartment. Daniel looked physically sick. Marcus slowly lowered the phone. "That's impossible." "No," Evelyn whispered. "What's impossible is what comes next." Then she pointed toward the hallway mirror. Marcus turned slowly and saw another Evelyn standing inside the reflection. Not mirrored, watching them, smiling. The second Evelyn suddenly raised one finger toward the clock on the wall. Tick, tick, tick. Then every clock in the apartment stopped again. The apartment fell into complete silence. Marcus stared at the hallway mirror while his pulse hammered violently in his ears. The second Evelyn remained motionless inside the reflection, smiling unnaturally as the stop clock behind her read 2:11 p.m. But inside the real apartment, time was frozen. Rain outside the windows no longer moved. Steam from Daniel's coffee hung still in the air. Even Marcus's blinking slowed unnaturally. "What the hell is happening?" he whispered. Evelyn backed away from the mirror in terror. "Don't look directly at her." That's not me anymore." The reflection, Evelyn tilted her head sharply, almost animal-like. Then cracks slowly spread across the mirror surface without anything touching it. Marcus reached instinctively for his weapon. The second Evelyn suddenly spoke. Correction process initiated. Its voice carried the same layered distortion as the shadow figure from the hallway. Daniel grabbed Evelyn's arm. "We need to leave. Right now. You can't outrun this," Evelyn whispered tearfully. "It follows time itself." Then the mirror shattered outward explosively. Marcus shielded his face as glass scattered across the apartment floor. When he looked up again, the reflection version of Evelyn was gone. But something else had appeared. Words, written across the wall in dripping black liquid. "Final window, 8:17 p.m. Marcus stepped closer carefully. "What does correction mean?" Evelyn's face collapsed emotionally. "It means reality is trying to erase me." She explained what she had never told anyone before. Every time she changed tomorrow, reality resisted. Small things first. Nosebleeds, blackouts, missing moments. Then people started disappearing. The universe was correcting itself, balancing what she altered. And now, after years of interference, the force behind the visions wanted permanent repayment. Her existence. Marcus tried forcing logic into the situation. "Then we stop whatever's causing this." "You don't understand," Evelyn said weakly. "The only way I survive tonight is if time completely stops." Daniel looked horrified. "But every time you stop time," he whispered, "someone dies." Evelyn slowly nodded. Then the television suddenly turned on by itself. Static filled the screen, and through the distortion appeared downtown Seattle at Pine Street, the exact intersection where Evelyn would disappear in less than 6 hours. Rainstorms swallowed downtown Seattle as Marcus drove through heavy traffic toward Pine Street with Evelyn and Daniel inside the vehicle. Police scanners crackled continuously while emergency sirens echoed across the city. Marcus still refused to fully believe the impossible, but evidence was beginning to destroy logic itself. "You said time has stopped before," Marcus said while gripping the steering wheel tightly. "Ow!" Evelyn stared blankly through the rain-covered window. "Extreme emotional pressure. That's not an answer. It's the only one I have." Marcus made a decision. At 6:03 p.m., they arrived at an abandoned underground maintenance tunnel beneath Seattle's old transit system. Years earlier, strange electrical disturbances had been reported there repeatedly during city blackouts. Evelyn called it a thin place, somewhere reality felt weaker. Marcus wanted proof before 8:17 p.m. arrived. Inside the tunnel, old fluorescent lights flickered weakly above rusted train tracks while water dripped from concrete ceilings. Daniel looked terrified the deeper they walked underground. Then Evelyn suddenly stopped. "I've been here before." Marcus frowned. "When?" "Tomorrow." The temperature dropped instantly. Every digital watch inside the tunnel malfunctioned simultaneously. 6:11 p.m. 6:11 p.m. 6:11 p.m. Frozen. Then the whispering began. Marcus heard dozens of voices overlapping through the darkness. Correction, correction, correction. Daniel panicked. We need to get out. But Evelyn stepped onto the abandoned tracks, breathing heavily as tears filled her eyes. I think this is where it started. Fragments of memory flooded her mind. Childhood headaches, stop clocks, unknown messages, and suddenly she remembered a woman. A terrified woman wearing hospital clothing, standing beside her childhood bed years ago, whispering one sentence repeatedly. You were never supposed to survive. Evelyn collapsed to her knees, screaming as the tunnel lights exploded one by one into darkness. Then Marcus saw something impossible at the far end of the tunnel. Dozens of motionless people standing silently in the shadows, watching them, and every single one had disappeared years ago. Downtown Seattle was drowning in chaos. Traffic lights malfunctioned across multiple intersections. Cell service failed intermittently. Digital billboards flickered with static while terrified citizens flooded sidewalks beneath heavy rain. And directly beneath the glowing Pike Tower clock, Evelyn Carter waited for death. Marcus stood beside her near Pine Street while police attempted blocking surrounding roads. Daniel paced anxiously through the rain, begging Evelyn to leave before 8:17 arrived. But she already knew there was nowhere left to run. It always ends here, she whispered. The city clock changed. 8:10 p.m. Suddenly, every electronic screen nearby flashed the same message simultaneously. Time must stand still. People screamed. Cars crashed. Then the entire city lost power. Darkness swallowed downtown Seattle. Marcus heard terrified shouting around them as emergency sirens abruptly died mid-sound. One by one, clocks across nearby buildings froze. 8:16 p.m. The air itself began vibrating violently. Rain stopped falling. Completely. Drops hung motionless above the streets. Citizens froze mid-movement like living statues. Daniel stared upward in horror. Oh my God! Only Evelyn, Marcus, and Daniel could still move. Then the shadow figures appeared. Dozens of them emerging silently from frozen crowds. Faceless. Watching Evelyn. The tallest figure stepped forward. Final correction. Evelyn collapsed crying. Please, there has to be another way. There is. The figure pointed toward Marcus. A replacement. Daniel immediately shouted, No. Marcus realized the truth instantly. Time demanded balance. One existence for another. Evelyn looked horrified. I won't let you take him. The shadow figure tilted its head slowly. Then time proceeds. The frozen city suddenly trembled violently as cracks spread through the air itself like shattered glass. 8:17 p.m. Evelyn screamed. Every clock in Seattle stopped simultaneously. A blinding wave of darkness swallowed the intersection. And then Evelyn Carter vanished. Gone. Without a trace. But before the darkness disappeared completely, Marcus saw one final impossible thing. Inside the frozen rain above the street, thousands of human faces were trapped, screaming silently within time itself.